is Think You're Not an Athlete, Think Again. How Impostor Syndrome Can Break Your Stride. And can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, I am a running coach, a freelance writer, a mom of 2 young kids, and I live here in Boulder, actually about a half a mile away. I've done 2 Ironman triathlons and 6 marathons, but before all that, I was a very dorky, unathletic kid growing up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Any other Rhode Islanders here? No? A lot of us are transplants. But I hated gym class. I was picked last for everything. Anything within a 5-foot radius of me smaller than a soccer ball had me terrified. So, naturally, I played lacrosse in high school. It was just as miserable of an experience as you would probably imagine it to be. I have 2 really distinct memories from my time on the lacrosse team. The first was of sitting on the bench for a game. I sat on the bench all the time. That wasn't the distinct part. But we were coming back in the van from the game, very tight game against a big rival, and there were McDonald's French fries being passed around. And I grabbed for a fry. And the quintessential popular mean girl, Becca Cobb, said, "Pam, why don't you save the fries for the people who actually played?" Right? I was mortified. And I cannot tell you what I had for breakfast this morning, but I am positive I will remember that until I die. Second,
a big handful of fries.
The second really distinct memory I have from that time in my life was a time when our coach told us we were going to run a timed 2 miles. So we're all complaining about it because everyone hated to run, but I secretly liked to run. I just grumbled because I was 15, and that's what you do when your friends are grumbling. But there was no ball, there was no stick to hold, there was no girls charging at me. I was like, I can put one foot in front of the other, I can run. So we're running, and pretty quickly I established myself, much to my surprise, in the front of the pack. And then it was just me and my friend Julia running neck and neck. And about a mile into it, I was like, oh my God, I could beat her. Never beat anybody at anything in my life. I have an older brother. So his mission was to not let me win anything. So I made up my mind that I was either gonna win or die trying. We get to the finish, she's about a hair ahead of me, and I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna throw up, I wanna die, when can I do this again? So when I was 22, I ran my first marathon, ran a few more marathons, inevitably got injured, started going to spin classes, I got certified as a spin instructor, and all the while, friends and family will say things like, oh, you're a runner, like, can I ask you and I'm like, oh, you can ask me whatever you want, but before you go on, I need to make sure that you understand that I am not a runner. And then I'm teaching spinning classes, I got a road bike, inevitably I started doing triathlons. And now, through most of my 20s, every waking moment practically that I'm not at work, I'm wearing some form of wicking fabric or spandex. I'm constantly waking up early to run, leaving work early to bike, and yet I don't think of myself as an athlete. Friends are like, oh, I'm gonna do my first sprint triathlon, you're a triathlete, so can I? And I'm like, whoa, no, not a triathlete. So my family came with me to my first Ironman, and I said something along those lines about not being a triathlete to my sister, and she said, are you out of your mind? She was like, you're about to swim 2.4 miles, bike 112 miles, and run a marathon, so what are you if you're not a triathlete? So, I don't know. So we're driving up to the race venue on the morning of the race, and I was thinking to myself, show them who you are, show them who you are. And I don't think I really realized it, but I look back and I go, yeah, obviously I kind of had this chip on my shoulder about not thinking that I was good enough, not thinking that I was truly an athlete. So I do the Ironman, I come through the finish line, my arms are raised in the air, there's this great picture of me crossing the line, and you would think, and what I want to tell you is that, yeah, I crossed the finish line and I realized I've been an athlete this whole time. But that's not what it was. I was thinking, thank God I'm done, and I really want a piece of pizza. which I had, and it was amazing. And it was really a gradual process for me, and I don't know that there was a specific race or a specific workout when it kind of hit me of, oh yeah, you've been an athlete since you tried to kill yourself in that 2-mile run when you were 15. It was just a very gradual process of day by day, week by week. I figured it out at some point. And what I realize now, after I've done a lot of research on the topic, is that I had a really bad, raging case of imposter syndrome. So my goal for tonight is to let you know what imposter syndrome is, help you figure out if you have it, and ways that you can deal with it if you do, so that you can start moving toward whatever your goal is, whether it's athletic or in some other area of your life. So just a quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you know what imposter syndrome is or heard of it. A few people. Okay. Imposter syndrome is the feeling that if anyone knew who you really were, they'd know that you were a fraud. It's feeling like if you've achieved any level of success or prestige, that it was a fluke of some kind. It's feeling like, oh my God, they're all gonna laugh at me, or I don't belong here, or anything like that. And it's very, very common. And it's especially common when you're trying something new or getting out of your comfort zone in any way, whether athletic or, applying for a new job, applying for graduate school, getting up in front of an audience and talking about something that you're supposed to know about. For example, studies show that 70% of people will experience it at some point in their life. And my informal polling has revealed that 100% of people, once I told them what imposter syndrome was, all my friends and family were like, oh yeah, I've had that, definitely had that. What's interesting is that although it tends to affect men and women in equal numbers, it shows up differently. Brene Brown, who you may be familiar with, she is most famous for some of her TED Talks, but she studies shame. And she talks about how men and women react differently to imposter syndrome because we experience shame differently. Women, this is all very general, but in our culture, generally, women feel shame when we feel like we have failed to be perfect. So if we aren't thin enough, if we aren't beautiful enough, if our house doesn't look like something from Pinterest, we feel shame. So we go, oh, if we're gonna try this thing and it's not gonna be perfect, forget it, I'm not gonna do it. Men, on the other hand, and this is, again, general, tend to feel shame when they fail to appear strong or in control. So they're more fearful of looking like a weenie because they didn't try versus trying and actually failing. So it tends to hold us women back a little bit more, just something to note. But in general, the reason that imposter syndrome is so common is our brain. As evolved as we are, we can't help the fact that the reptilian part of your brain, I'm like kind of pointing to it back here, it's like right above your brainstem, it's called the amygdala, and that's where you feel that flight or fight response. So we're wired to have fear. So say, for example, you sign up for a triathlon, and it seems like an awesome idea when you're signing up. And now 2 months later, you're putting on your wetsuit, and you're about to get in a lake. Maybe you've never swam in a lake before, and there's going to be like 300 people thrashing around you, and you feel like you're going to die, and you feel like it was like the worst idea in the world. That feeling, your brain generates that feeling, which is the exact same feeling that, say, the cave person version of you would feel when a tiger is charging at you. And you can't help it. The thing that you need to do, and I'm borrowing this from Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Big Magic, really good book, she says you need to just acknowledge your fear and go, look, fear, I know that you're here, I know you're going to be here, but I'm going to drive. You get to sit in the back seat. The other thing that's really important to know about fear is it's just channeling the discomfort of being in this hard place of here's where you want to be, or I'm sorry, here's where you are, here's where you want to be, and to get there, that's really hard. It's really scary. I have a 4-year-old, and about 2 years ago-ish, she started experiencing growing pains. And I get a lot of things wrong as a parent, like a lot, and I'm probably going to get a lot more wrong. But the one of the things I feel like I got right was on a whim one day, I gave her this heart-shaped purple stone that I happen to have in a drawer, and it says strength on it. I just handed her my stone, and I was like, keep this under your pillow, and when you have a growing pain, you can hold on to it, and it's going to help you. Which, what I really meant was, don't wake me up in the middle of the night. But the beauty of it is it worked. She never woke me up about a growing pain again. And I don't know if you know this, but the word for courage comes from the root word core, heart. So having that stone helps with her growing pains, and that's what we all need to remember. As grown-ups, we have growing pains too when we are growing and stretching and doing things that are outside of our comfort zone, and so we need to be strong. But how do we do it, right? It's so much easier said than done. I want to share with you my acronym, LEAP. Okay, we're gonna leap into whatever your goal is. Before we do, does anybody feel like just a super quick, like 30-second chance to say something in their life where they have felt or currently feel some imposter syndrome coming up? No pressure. All right. Oh, JT.
I kind of, it's more about the fight or flight response, and with me, job interviews, and how, like that's, be feeling accepted by the person, and judged by the person you're hoping to be employed by. And I took a workshop where they actually video record you in a mock job interview, so that's like 10 times worse. And then you have to look at yourself and just see how bad you look. And I was so nervous, and then I knew I sounded horrible, but I knew my answers were, I was saying the right stuff, but I was just no confidence. And then I saw the video of how I looked, and I looked bad. There was no doubt about it. But I from my internal view as I was going through it, I looked 10 times worse than what was actually on the video. And so when I saw that, I didn't actually look as bad as I thought, and if I can just shed that, that little bit of fear, I'll be fine. And so just that thought of wait, there's no reason for me to be scared or, worried, because that's the only thing that's holding me back.
I think that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else want to chime in? What's your name?
My name is Sam.
Sam has something.
About 2 years ago or so, I started losing a lot of weight. I was about 50, 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And when I first started running, I couldn't run more than a block and a half before I'd have to walk. So I ran at night, in the middle of the night when nobody could see me. And to this day, I still feel as if I'm not fast enough or good enough as a runner, and so I do feel more comfortable running at night in the dark, or out on the trail when I'm alone. And so I definitely think that I have some big growing pains to get through still.
Wow. That was super personal. Thank you. Can this be like Vegas? Like what happens here stays here?
You are recorded.
I mean, okay. Yeah, but we don't know his last name and he's not in the recording. We'll talk after. Anybody else? Okay, so I think, even if you don't feel like sharing, I'm sure you can think of something in your life where you're maybe, just doubting your abilities, but don't need to be. And if it's of any comfort to you, I've done so much reading on this topic. One of the things I came across that I loved was that John Steinbeck wrote in his journal, "I am not a real writer. I am a hack." Okay? John Steinbeck. So it happens to everybody. Okay, so how do we leap into the unknown to grow, right? Well, L. L is for letting go of perfection. There is no perfect time to start. There is no perfect situation in which to start. The perfect time is now. I know a lot of women specifically will often say, "Oh, well, I need to weigh this much to start this new thing," right? Forget that. Another version of letting go of perfection is, say you're at the starting line of a race. Training cycles rarely go perfectly, but what can you do? People get sick, work gets crazy, things happen. You've trained as much as you can. Go for it. Or when you have a project. You could sit on a project for a month probably and make 8 new revisions a day. But at some point you have to say, this is done, I'm going to turn it in or publish it or whatever the situation is. So letting go of perfection. E, express how you're feeling about imposter syndrome. That could mean just telling a friend or a partner or a therapist. And what you'll find is, I think as we all know, once you tell somebody something, it kind of takes the burden off. But also once you hear from other people, if you're talking to somebody you trust and they trust you, they'll probably reveal having had or having a similar feeling. And it's really liberating to know that you are not alone. You may journal about it if there's nobody to talk to or just not the right circumstance. Or even in your mind, separating yourself from the feeling of all the anxiety and realizing that is not the whole experience, that's just a feeling. By saying to yourself, oh, well, I am moving into a new profession, or I am, whatever, trying a new distance of race that I've never tried. I'm just feeling a little bit anxious about that because it's out of my comfort zone. And just saying that in your mind can help you acknowledge it and move on from that. A is for acting as if, also known as fake it till you make it. Just keep on doing whatever the thing is. Say, like for me, as an athlete, it was, well, let's see, what would a serious athlete, an athlete that took themselves seriously be doing right now? Well, they'd be waking up early for workouts. Okay, I did that. They would be trying to eat something within 30 minutes after the workout. Did that. They would not be going out and drinking and staying out too late the night before a race. Mostly did that. But all those things that I did, all those little things that I felt like I was acting as if, eventually I got to where I was like, oh yeah, I was an athlete. But that helped me a lot. That's kind of one of my favorites. Also known as just do it, right? Very easy and yet also very hard. And finally, P for positive self-talk. Self-talk is, that voice in your head that's saying, oh, they're all gonna laugh at me, I suck, whatever it is. Sometimes the voice is so loud and so frequent that you don't even realize it's a voice in your head. You think it's true. If you can slow down, sometimes just breathing, maybe meditating, just acknowledging it, and then once you hear it for what it is, ask yourself, would I ever talk to a friend this way? No, it's so mean to say to a friend, don't try it, you're gonna fail, everyone's gonna laugh at you. You'd never do that. So be at least as nice to yourself as you would be to a friend. Other strategies for making sure you have positive mental talk would be, this is one I learned from Will Murray. He's a local mental skills coach. He talked about imagining that voice in your head sucking in a great big helium balloon before it says anything. So add some levity. Brene Brown mentioned giving your little voices a name. She calls hers, I think, the gremlin. And I actually, I'll give you, there's a handout that I'm going to give you with a quick and dirty version of this. And my website is on there. I wrote a little blog post recently where not only did I name my little voices, but I also gave them like whole characters and like weapons that they were holding. And so it was a fun thing, but it was liberating. It was a cool exercise that I would recommend that you do, and you for sure don't have to make it public on your blog. I just am weird like that. And finally, my favorite way to deal with the negative self-talk is to have a mantra. And I know we're in Boulder and we're all woo-woo, so everybody's probably into that. But it's not as woo-woo as it sounds. It's just a phrase or a sentence or just something that you can say to yourself that resonates with you, that is powerful to you. It can be whatever you want. If you want to use mine, I don't have a copyright on it. It's very fancy. You ready?
Ready.
Yes, I can. So you should be able to remember, yes, I can. And what I love about that is I just kind of made it a habit to say that to myself if I'm doing a hard workout, at the end of a race, whenever my body is telling me, don't, just stop, you don't have to do all the repeats, or you can slow down. I just kind of go, no, yes, I can. And the thing about it is, yes, I can is not necessarily more or less true than no, I can't. So if you're going to have a habit of thinking one way or the other, you might as well think that you can. And then it's a habit. You don't have to think about it. You're just like, oh, yes, I can. So that's how you can leap into whatever your next big adventure is. If you like my talk, or even if you're just curious, I wrote this book. It's called There's No Room for Fear in a Burley Trailer. It is a collection of stories, and it chronicles they're mostly funny stories. It chronicles my journey from amateur triathlete to rookie mom, and Flatirons has it for sale. Also, I'm going to give you guys a handout. I hope that at least one of the strategies that I shared can help you in some way. And I would just like to, again, thank you for coming and ask if you have any questions. You guys can